So welcome everyone. So grateful to have you all here for our lunch and learn on how to keep our wellness cup full. And so incredibly excited to have Tanya McHarg from the Association of Black Social Workers, who is going to be joining me. And we're really excited to talk about this very important topic. I want to begin by acknowledging that I am in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq. Their inherent rights to this land were recognized in the peace and friendship treaties which Mi'kmaq, Wolastoq, and Passamaquoddy people signed with the British Crown from 1725 to 1779. This series of treaties did not surrender Indigenous land, resources, or sovereignty to the British Empire, but instead established rules for an ongoing relationship between multiple nations. The treaties were later reaffirmed by Canada in Section 35 of the Constitution Act in 1982, and they remain active to this day. The Nova Scotia College of Social Workers joins our members and our communities in the necessary labor of reconciliation. We are grateful to live and work together as treaty people in Mi'kma'ki. I want to invite everyone to join with me in our land acknowledgement. You might need to Google if you're not familiar with the Indigenous name for the territory or location where you are currently joining us. But please use the chat to not only ask questions or join in our conversation, but first and foremost, to join with me in this land acknowledgement by saying who you are and where you are joining us from using the correct Indigenous names. So as you put that in the chat, I want to remind us all that without action, acknowledgements are empty. Whether you are with us in Mi'kma'ki or joining us from elsewhere, please consider whose territory you are in, your relationship with that land, and your relationship with the Indigenous peoples who have lived and continue to live in that place. We invite you to reflect on how each of us, as individuals and as a collective body of social workers, can hold ourselves accountable to reconciliation with Indigenous peoples here and across Turtle Island. Walaluyu. Thank you all. And now I'm going to invite Tanya to unmute. And Tanya is going to join us by making a land acknowledgement. And again, please join us in making your own land acknowledgements through the chat. Tanya?
Thank you, Anne. Thank you. The Association of Black Social Workers, ABSW, acknowledges and requests the presence of Mother Africa and our ancestors whose teachings, strength, and perseverance continue to challenge and inspire our community. ABSW acknowledges that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. This territory is covered by the treaties of peace and friendship. ABSW recognizes that African Nova Scotians are a distinct founding people in Nova Scotia who have been a key part of the province's culture and history. The ABSW's mission is to build strength and health across African Nova Scotian communities and to forge a renewed working relationship with government that creates conditions for all African descended people in Nova Scotia to thrive.
Thank you so much. And I do want to thank Tanya so much for joining us and facilitating this very important topic. Many of you got to hear Tanya when she was presenting on our annual conference in May. And a lot of the feedback we received when Tanya spoke was, oh my gosh, we can't wait to hear her again. Now, we are so grateful to have her back, her passion, her wisdom, her insight, and her beautiful luminous spirit. And she is now the executive director of the Association of Black Social Workers. So we're so excited to welcome her back into Mi'kma'ki territory. And she's also pursuing her Master's of Social Work at Dalhousie. And you can see a little bit, she's going to share a little bit more, but her prior studies at St. Thomas University focused on anti-Black racism. And she has a sociology degree with honors and also completed her Bachelor of Social Work with the University of Calgary. And while she's originally from the East Coast, she resigned her position with the government of Alberta to move here. So we're so grateful that Alberta's loss has been our gain. And I know that I am so grateful to have her as a partner as we work to really transform Nova Scotia for all of us. And her passion around advocacy includes interests around poverty, homelessness, addictions, women's issues, queer rights, as well as obviously, and very importantly, bringing attention to anti-Black racism, systemic racism, and fighting for a fair and equitable society where every person has the opportunity to thrive. So grateful to you, Tanya, and I am going to be quiet, and I can't wait to learn from you along with everyone else.
Thank you so much, Anne. And I am so happy to see that we have, how many people do we have in the group now? I'm so excited to.
Right now it's 65, but we are also video recording. And so some people might be joining us after they grab their lunch, because part of having lunch and learns is to make sure that people eat lunch and have a nice, interesting lunch. But that's welcome also to all of you who are joining us on video after the fact.
Wonderful. Okay, well, Anne did a fabulous job, and you're too kind, Anne, introducing me. I am from the East Coast. My father is African Nova Scotian and is from Annapolis Valley, although has lived his whole life really in St. John, New Brunswick. I left here, I left Fredericton, New Brunswick after I finished my degree at St. Thomas. I knew I had to find a way to pay off the student loan debt. So everyone's like, oh, move to Alberta. There's lots of money to be had there. So that's what I did. I moved to Alberta, did some more schooling, raised children, and 25 years passed. And as I've continued with my educational journey, just my life's journey, I've always had a longing to return to the East Coast, specifically Nova Scotia, and find a way to work to assist moving people of African descent through a journey of healing and thriving, so when the opportunity presented itself, I didn't even really know the association existed. So I found that out maybe 5 years ago. So once I found that out, I certainly took it upon myself to do some more research and to connect with some people. So when it came time, when the universe said, this is what you have asked for, Tanya, here it is. Well, people that know me know the story well. Within 6 weeks, I resigned my government position of 17 years. I sold my house just outside of Calgary, Alberta, bought a house here, and moved my family across the country. We drove for 7 days. So I did that in 6 weeks. That is how much I really wanted to come back this way, but to do this work. So certainly, like Anne said, my focus through all of my career thus far, I've been practicing for over 20 years now. I think it's over 21 actually now, to age myself. And my focus has always been around bringing attention to anti-Black racism. But over the last 5 or 6 years, that's still very present for me. It's important and part of the healing and health journey. But I also am really focusing on wellness and how to keep your cup full, how to continue to thrive, and just be the best you can and feel the best you can. And to just, before we go into a meditation, I'm saying this to let you know the reason why I feel so strongly now about speaking about wellness, holistic wellness, mental health in particular, but just all of it. It's all connected, right? We can't have one without the other. So For me, I feel so strongly about talking about this area now because there came a point in my career where all of a sudden I was experiencing something that I thought I would never have to deal with ever. I was always very high functioning and juggled 1,001 balls at one time, kids and school and work and all of it. So when burnout and vicarious trauma and all kinds of health ailments, it's almost like everything kind of happened at once. Health, emotional, mental, and I'm like, what is this? And I was 15 years into my social work practice. I had no idea that I was then struggling with a burnout. And it stopped me in my tracks. And so since that occurred, my mission has been obviously becoming well again, but also sharing my story and helping others to not burn out, but if you are already there, to move through and back to a journey of wellness again. So I do believe very strongly that in order to be well, for me, I'm just one voice, I'm just one perspective, but for me, meditation, stillness, and just mindfulness it's been so important. So I would love to begin with taking you folks through just a very brief meditation, just to, feel and appreciate our humanity, remember to breathe. It's such a simple thing, but sometimes there's lots of times for myself, I stop and I'm like, wow, look how I'm breathing right now, or my heart rate's high, or we just get caught up in so much. So let's just take a moment to connect with our breath. I like to, and everyone does it different, I like to breathe in my nose, nice and deep, and out my mouth. And I can feel right now, go again, breathe again. I can feel right now my heart is pounding. Breathe nice and deep and out the mouth again. We're going to do 3. Continue to keep your eyes closed if you're comfortable with that, and just be present here with yourself, your breath, taking this time for yourself, which you deserve. You deserve. So just keep breathing. If it's helpful for you to focus on where you feel the breath most strongly. Sometimes I really feel it strongly on my, below my nostrils and above my lip. Kind of focus on that point. And whatever is here right now is perfectly fine. The purpose here isn't to try to empty the mind, or to quiet the mind, although, that's always really nice. But, if you find yourself kind of drifting off into thought or worries or thinking about your next meeting, just bring your attention gently, with compassion and understanding. Bring your attention back to your breath. So I feel like meditation is certainly a way to guide us back home, here, to yourself. It's a practice of observing and accepting what's here. I also like to put my hands sometimes on my heart, just connecting with me, What a beautiful privilege. Really, to be here. When I woke up this morning, I always start my day with gratitude and just thanking whatever you believe in, thanking spirit, thanking God, thanking universe, whatever works for you, but just recognizing that there is something bigger at play than us, and that our lives are a gift, really, and that even though sometimes things are hard, we have so much also to be grateful for, and know that you woke up today, you're here, you have a purpose. I'm going to take one more nice deep breath. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes if you had them closed. I'll just say that meditation is something that I do multiple times a day. Someone introduced me to the Calm app a number of years ago. It's certainly something I utilize. I'm getting my money's worth out of that subscription because, it can be before a meeting or while I'm walking. I mean, they have so many things, but meditation has just really taken, it helps take me out of my head, if that makes sense. We get so kind of caught up into all the things we have to do and the stressors that exist in our lives, but meditation, just slowing it down, it really helps kind of bring everything back into perspective, which is just lovely. So if you're not meditating yet, I highly encourage it. Highly, highly encourage it. Thank you, N. So, self-care. Can I see my notes on here? Let me look. Can you make it in a way so I can see my notes, or no, Anne?
I can't. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. It's okay. I don't need them. I would love, are we able to make it so that we can have people's speakers on? Because we're looking at this picture. It says self-care. We have this, beautiful Black human being here with their gold, their gold patches on their eyes. And I just, would love people to kind of, I would love to hear from you, like what comes to mind. Number one, when you hear self-care, but number two, you're looking at this picture, like what are some things that come to mind for you?
All right, so we have, please put in the chat and I can write down. We've got 75 people joining us right now, so I'm afraid that we won't be able to hear if people just call out.
Yeah,
but
sure.
Please put in the chat. They seem to be enjoying themselves, is Katie's comment. Please, I won't name you by name, just add some of your, join us. Yoga, okay, awesome. What else comes to mind when you see this person? Not sure about the phone. Yeah, happy, smiling, smile, relaxed and happy.
Yeah.
That's an interesting point about the phone. It can be used for positive or negative things, right? Tanya just talked about finding an app that helps with meditation. Nabia talks about nature, looking comfortable, walking in nature.
Love it. Connecting with nature.
Wonderful. Relaxation, engagement, taking time. Yeah. Listening to music, multitasking with skincare and phone time. Yeah. Sometimes we have to multitask our self-care, but yeah.
Very good. I love all the input so far, for sure. Would this picture be like even better maybe if he didn't have his phone? But at the same time, I assumed when I first saw it, I'm like, oh, he's scrolling social media, get off there. No, he might be reading something about positive affirmations right now. Or, maybe he's reading something about his wellness. Maybe he's listening to some beautiful, relaxing music that I also listen to on the Calm app. So I love this picture because, well, twofold. Number one, he certainly does look like he is caring for himself right now. He looks happy and content and at peace, all of those things. But I also have to always infuse what is my first love is anti-Black racism and challenging stereotypes. So many times when we see pictures of Black people, men in particular, in media, they're portrayed in a certain way. So when I found this picture, I'm like, I'm using this picture. Look at this beautiful Black human being, taking care of themselves and looking at peace and happy. And, he's not, all the ways, I won't get into it because it could be a training on its own, but all the ways a lot of Black men are portrayed in media, it's the opposite of this.
We actually had a couple of comments about everyone connects differently, and he might be connecting with other people, loved ones, for sources of affirmation. And, so introverts recharge alone, but some people recharge by connecting with other loved ones. So that was
Yeah,
some more comments.
very good. Thank you. I love that someone talked about walking their dog as well. My
Mm-hmm.
dog, Jada, is a Pomeranian Shih Tzu, and she's my little therapy dog for sure. Going for a run and eating ice cream. It's all about the balance. I love that. That's kind of how I do it too. Although it's not ice cream, it's like, let me have a lovely glass of wine after I've gone for my walk. Bathing, like, oh, so many amazing things, which I love. I didn't see, and someone may have put it in there, journaling. I keep two journals. One is a gratitude journal. It's always just gratitude, nothing else. Even if I am feeling like I'm in a bad place right now, feeling heavy, it's been a difficult day, I'll still sit down and focus on my breathing, just try to get myself centered. And even if I can just think of one thing to put down, typically what happens is I'll get writing in my gratitude journal, and one thing will be on the page. And the more I take time to connect with myself and approach myself with self-compassion, because I don't know about you folks, but I have a tendency I'll get home and I'm thinking about, my work day or whatever, and thinking about things that I could have done better or different. I would love to know, and I'm a 70s baby. So I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and the messaging always was that in my family at least, that self-care, like we didn't talk about self-care, what is that? But the messaging was, you put everyone else first, especially as a Black woman. We put everyone else first, and we didn't really talk about it. You just do it. Everyone comes first, everyone in anything. And typically you have nothing left for yourself. At least I did not have anything left for myself. And it's like, then you wonder why you're feeling exhausted, maybe, even angry or resentful, all of those things. It's like, you need to care for yourself first. So types of self-care that people have spoken about. I'm going to just move this chat over here. There we go. Physical. Yeah, I didn't see sleep. I'm sure someone must have put it in there. Making art. Love that. Sunshine, nature, quiet. Like, these answers are so fantastic. The ocean. Yes. And this person says, recently returned to Nova Scotia. The ocean is my therapy. Absolutely. I'm right there with you. So types of self-care. I'm going between this slide and seeing people's comments, which are fantastic. Sleep, stretching, walking. I so do that. Healthy food is like always a work in progress, because of course, sometimes when I'm feeling stressed or whatever, there's times where you engage in some emotional eating. So do I have my crunchy chips? Yeah. And then I say to myself, are these crunchy chips really going to help me with this particular problem that I'm struggling through? No, they're not. So I'm like, let's have a couple and put it away, as opposed to eating the whole bag. So, we're a work in progress. I'm a work in progress, at least. And I try every day, every moment through the days, like, just to not be too hard on yourself. We're human beings. We're here going through our journeys, and sometimes, it presents with some challenges. So we do our best. Yoga, I love. Rest, yes. I have to have my 8 or 10 #storm chips. I love that. I have to have my 8 or 10 hours of sleep. I do. And then we have the emotional, so stress management. Well, for me, again, the walk certainly helps. Gratitude journal helps. Emotional maturity. I would love to know what people think about that. So that's something that I continue to work on, quite frankly. It's like, you're triggered by something. Can you take the work that you're doing on the mat through meditation or whatever other spiritual work you're doing, and apply that and utilize that then out in real life when you're triggered? And I'll just share for myself, over the last 6 months, say, for example, that I've been in Nova Scotia, 2 times things have come up where everything that I've been working on, like in regards to myself, and surrounding myself with, love and happiness and kindness and encouragement, and just really not allowing for any of the negative, toxic energies to kind of draw from me. Because if you allow people to do that, they will do that. Like, you have to set the boundaries. But have there been times where I've kind of reverted back? was triggered by somebody, so I reverted back to my old emotional kind of like response of either being angry or, I don't want to use the word aggressive. I don't think that fits, but certainly like a bit more hostile maybe and angry. So to always kind of bring it back to what are the parts of myself that still require love and attention and compassion and healing, yeah, because I feel like that work is never ending. They taught forgiveness, compassion, kindness, absolutely. And so especially when it says compassion and kindness, forgiveness, all of those things, make sure that you are giving yourself those things first, right? Like that, all the self-compassion for sure, and kindness, all of it. The boundaries, and people are saying in here, I love the boundaries. Yes. And I know it's hard. It's hard for me, and I'm sure and people are speaking here about setting boundaries is so hard. Yes, for people I'm here with you. I hear you. It is hard. And not even leading with, I'm sorry, but I've stopped saying I'm sorry. Why am I apologizing for the fact that, I don't want to, I don't want to work or volunteer necessarily all of my time away. Like, why do I have to give people reasons for needing time for myself? Like, we don't. We're not just here to, and I'll put it quite bluntly because this is kind of how I think of it, but we are not here to just work and die. That's not the only reason why we're here. Like, there's so much more. There's so much more to our lives, and why our spirits are here. And the sooner you can figure out, the why and what makes you feel so alive and valued and loved and encouraged and supported, and just, the sooner you can figure that stuff out, the easier, like the more ease you'll have in your life, So I love people talking here about, stop checking my phone or emails after hours. Yep. You're not available all the time for people to be like texting or calling, or, not everyone has earned the right to have access to you all the time, or to even have access to you, period. Not everyone has earned that right. We have to protect ourselves, maintain those boundaries. And when I first started doing this work years ago, and like for myself, I'm like, oh, I'm going to be so worried about what people think about me. I don't know if there's any people pleasers on the call, but overworker, people pleasing, lack of boundaries. I mean, it's a recipe for disaster. And I'm just speaking from my own experience. And so, boundaries are everything. And, stop apologizing for taking care of yourself. Because at the end of the day, the title of our talk here, how to keep your cup full. If you don't first give yourself all of the things we're talking about, and setting boundaries, and, keeping the social media positive, for example, under social, time together, asking for help. If we're not giving all these things to ourselves and taking care of ourselves first, I don't know why, and I'm guilty of it, why we think we're going to have endless resources to give to others. And I'm laughing because I was that person. I think I practiced for 15 years and didn't really have great boundaries. I was on call all the time. I was available for, staff that I worked with at the time in Alberta. I was available for everyone to do anything, like whatever people needed except for myself. And it wasn't until, I wasn't able to sleep anymore. It's like the work, it just never turned off. I wasn't able to sleep anymore. And I just didn't feel well in any way, shape, or form, physical, emotional, spiritual, none of it. I did not feel well. And friends and family were saying to me, Tanya, like, you're changing. Something's changing. And then, full disclosure, my youngest son at the time, he's 12 now, but at the time, he might have been 6 or 7. I was tucking him into bed after working 12 hours that day. I remember it very clearly. And I got home just as he was getting ready to go to bed. And he said to me, "Mommy, are you sure that you don't love the kids that you work with more than you love me?" That was a huge turning point for me. I very clearly was giving my kids the message, especially my youngster, but also my adults who are now adults, say to me, "Yeah, it's true. Like, you're gone a lot. You're very invested in your career and helping lots of people and families and children. But, what about helping yourself? And what about being here for your own children and kids?" And that was a really difficult message to hear, but real talk. I am a straight shooter. I also like people to be straight with me. So, making time for yourself, everything else really should come after that. Just put it that way. I start my day taking care of myself through meditation and yoga and positive affirmations, and I end my day the same way. And if I can fit in some self-care throughout the day, making sure I'm drinking my water, maybe I'm listening to a really great positive podcast or something at lunch hour, going for a walk. There are a number of ways, but too many of us are working through breaks and skipping lunch or not taking lunch, and I'm guilty of it. I am guilty of it. I'm not going to act like I'm not. This is a journey. Some days I do really well and some days I don't. And usually if I get home and I'm not feeling well, it was probably a day where I did not invest in myself. I did not take care of myself, and I put everything else before me. And it's just not sustainable. We know this. And I'm speaking from someone who's gone through it. And having to build back better, which is great, I love under the social here, the setting boundaries with your social media. I have unfollowed so many pages so that making sure that my news feed is all about the life I am looking to cultivate. It's kind of like a vision board is how I use social media. I use it as my vision board, so all the beautiful self-love affirmations, for those of us who have work to do around being worthy or feeling like you're not worthy enough. So I fill my timeline up with all kinds of things to support me in the life I'm looking to cultivate, Let's see some of I'm going to take a breath and see some of the comments that are coming up here. Can I scroll back? I look at my self-care like a bank account. Yeah, here's something. And are you able to read?
I can read some of them. I'm also going to take this as an opportunity for people who are joining us after the fact to be reminded that while it's great to watch a webinar, it's even better to be on it live when possible, because you get to engage in these awesome conversations concurrently. So we have some challenges. So one comment is around, especially for those of us assigned female at birth in the helping professions, when clients need you, we are taught to sometimes put ourselves last. Yeah. A mix of unscheduled and unproductive time. Sometimes self-care is scheduled and productive, and just doing the work counts. So that was another component. A lot of people resonating with your "I'm sorry, but," and trying to focus that. Using our technology to help us, like sleep settings on our phones. The savior complex, that is a very wise comment to think about. Then we have the suggestion of building a network of professionals and personal connections so that we don't default as quickly to being all things to all people at all times. And then we think about our fear of the response that we get to boundary setting is bigger than the actual response that we get. If the needs that we're communicating are reasonable, usually people meet those boundaries that we're communicating with understanding and respect. Not always, but more often than we might fear. So the more we do it, the easier it gets.
Yes.
And that's a different. The self-care is a bank account, as you commented. So thinking about what we withdraw and what is worth a withdrawal and what is not, that helps us make decisions that are tempered. Yeah, there's some great
I
conversation.
know, really good ones. I love the bank account one for sure. I mean, I love them all, but that's a really good, yeah.
So this was a really great point here, something about toxic positivity and how do we curate our social media to reflect positivity, but also not pressure ourselves to always feel and be positive, that there's
Yeah.
space for anger
Yes.
and that we should be thinking about the emotional forgiveness component, that
Mhm.
sometimes when we're not doing, self-care as much as we want, how much of that is related to potentially just our own expectations of ourselves. Like you were talking about eating chips, well, we can't do everything simultaneously, right? So maybe this year I'm going to work on my physical well-being, maybe next year I'm going to work on my relationships, like having that kind of understanding of the larger systems within which we work as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. And
um,
I try to see it as, again, like I said here, it's balance, right? And I'm not going to ever stop, I don't think, eating chips occasionally. I enjoy chips, and I don't think it's good or bad. It's about balance and just reminding myself, and it might not be the same for others. I'm speaking for myself. Am I wanting to have a little snack right now, a little crunchy snack? I'm craving something salty, or am I eating my emotions right now? And is
right,
there a better
it's
way for
not
me
all
to
or
deal with this?
nothing.
And
It's
yeah,
what's going on inside of us that is part of motivating us.
yeah. And I
This would
love
be where that journaling and meditation comes in, so we can be
totally.
attentive to what's actually going on inside of us.
Yeah, and I really do appreciate, I think it's Alicia's point around the toxic positivity. I just want to go back to that because
Mhm.
don't get me wrong. I mean, there are definitely some days, and I actually had one yesterday. I had a really good day yesterday, but there was a point when I went out in community, I was triggered by someone in community and was very tempted to not utilize the skills and patience and things that I know I have. I was triggered by her, and I wanted to kind of like respond quickly and kind of just put her in her place, which is what, you know, the unhealed version of myself would do. Not that I'm healed, I'm on a healing journey. But I was able to see it for what it was. And I'm like, the way she's responding to me right now, the way she's treating me has nothing to do with me.
Mhm.
Me being triggered by her is just, me knowing and feeling that I still have some things that need to be healed. That's me. The way she's acting is that's on her, and the way I respond to her is on me. So I'm like, Tanya, just respond in kindness because it just feels better. But are there some days where, you bring up a great point. It's like there has to be space clearly for other emotions, and I allow myself to feel everything I feel at any given moment. Feel it, but it doesn't mean I need to go out and and respond to everyone in anger or whatever. But certainly if you're feeling a certain way at any given time, I just sit with it. Allow myself to feel sad or angry or whatever it is. It's called being human. So I appreciate you saying that.
And I would say, actually, for me, there are definitely times where I think anger is an appropriate response when, for example, someone makes a comment that would be anti-Semitic or homophobic or
Sure.
racist or something. You
Hmm.
know, that is a reminder. Those feelings of anger to me are a reminder that the system is broken and needs fixing, and how much of our own experiences of burnout are really our experiences and how much are by design as part of the system to keep down certain groups of people to maintain the
Mm-hmm.
status quo. And that's why I would actually love to see, as part of types of self-care, advocacy as an extra component of this, because I feel like sometimes the best self-care is changing the system that's causing this, because we blame ourselves for so much,
Yeah.
but so much of what we're experiencing is by design as
Hmm.
part of the system, and we are used to blaming ourselves rather than reflecting, putting the anger where it belongs and working together to try to dismantle the systemic oppression that's
Hmm.
causing so much of our burnout.
Mm-hmm. Oh, such good points, really. You know, yeah, it's true. We do blame ourselves. Like, why can't I keep up this pace? Because it's
Mm-hmm.
not sustainable, it's not
Right,
healthy. We need to unlearn. We need to go through an
right.
unlearning process of, I don't want to, and I said that to someone not that long ago. I'm like, I can, like I've done, huge long work hours and supervising lots of people and going without sleep and neglecting myself in so many ways. I could do all that and be, we value that super person at work that's just always everything to everyone.
The
But at
capitalist
what
fantasy.
cost? But
It's
at
the
what?
capitalist fantasy.
Yes. And I'm like, I could do it. I don't want to do it. I value myself enough as a human being, as Tanya, to make space for me and all the things that I need to be well. And then I can give that in turn to the people that I say I
Mhm.
want to help. Right? What is in my cup is mine for
Right.
me. What flows out of the cup is for everyone else.
Yeah, and so a couple of comments going on right now around mindfulness and the role of mindfulness in helping us assess what is for us, what is not for us that we don't need to take care of it.
Mm.
And then there's also the comment around fighting against the system. If you're working against the current, can be part of the burnout because of the unpaid emotional labor involved. And
Oh,
do we sometimes, does self-care involve finding a new system to work within, which you just shared your story of coming here, recognizing that there were aspects of your life that was systemically problematic, and if you were going to fight for something, you wanted it to be part of a passion that's deep in your heart.
yeah. Yeah. And you shouldn't have to sacrifice yourself and any part of yourself and your wellness for any job or for any person ever. And if that is what is being asked for you from you, it's probably time to reconsider. I mean, there's a reason why so many people have resigned their positions in child welfare, for example. I mean, it's just one area, but there are many areas where, staff retention, you can't keep staff because you know what? The way we were doing it does not work for people. It doesn't work
Mhm.
for people, and people are unhappy and unhealthy, and it's not acceptable. It's not acceptable. We need to make it a priority to be well as human beings first and foremost. And then you'll show up as a better wife, husband, worker, whatever it is anyway. But it has to start here, and I had to learn it the hard way. So that's why I feel like maybe I can speak on it a little bit because I had to learn the hard way. And if I can prevent somebody else from going through the pain of vicarious trauma and burnout and insomnia and all the other symptoms that could come with it, I really would love to do that. So if after this you want to reach out to me, by way of the website, I don't know if my contact information is on here, certainly feel free to do.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
contact. Will I? This is not a one-time conversation. I have a feeling we may not get to all of the slides in our deck, so we may be asking you to come back. But there's this great question here in the chat about how do you navigate pouring from an empty cup?
Oh,
I understand that boundaries are important, but when you want to be there for everyone and provide support, I know that some of it is a trauma response that needs unpacking. And
yes.
then the comment trauma informed care, maybe that's not just for the people we're caring for, but also for ourselves and how that trauma impacts us. What within ourselves get activated when we bear witness to other
Mm.
people's trauma.
So Preston, I would say certainly, if in navigating from an empty cup, I just don't think that it's, well, is it possible? Yeah. Does it feel terrible? Yes. But there certainly are times when the cup is just so empty. I mean, that you need to take some time away and off. And that's when people sometimes take a medical leave or take whatever time you need to replenish. And I don't think we do it enough, but to replenish and to have your full-time job be self-care, where I'm just, and I know so many of us aren't able to take time off, but if you were in a position where you could take some time off, maybe it's a medical leave, maybe it's WCB, maybe it's, who knows? Because I just believe that our health is that important. Our mental health, physical, spiritual, it's that important. You take time to replenish and set something up that's sustainable. You have like a network of people and resources that help sustain you. you know, and then you're able to go back and support the people you want to support. So I know there's some trauma response in this, you said here. Yeah, our healing and our work, we have
Mhm.
to do that. Because if we don't, then the people we say we're helping or we're wanting to help, if we're in the helping profession, you know, the risk of our stuff then pouring over to them and not in a good way, if you know what I mean. I mean, it happens. We have to do our
Mhm.
healing and our, you know, healing from trauma and unpacking that first, I feel like. And in an ideal world, would I have done all of that work long before I got into the field of social work? Yes, but it's,
Well,
you know,
but
we're talking about real life here. So, yeah.
right. And the thing is that sometimes our work, we don't realize what our work is until we are,
Yeah.
faced with it. And
Yep.
so it's really a mutual healing journey. The idea of the power dynamic of we, the helper that's perfect, is actually an idea that traps us. And our healing is intertwined with the people we're healing and the systems we're fixing. And maybe we need to almost redefine self-care to care, that when we care for ourselves, we're caring for others, that part
Yes.
of that's part of caring for others, is making sure
Yes.
that our cup is full.
Absolutely. I love that. Caring for ourselves is caring for others. Yeah, self-compassion equals compassion for others.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And it's really countercultural. Everything we're saying right here is so countercultural to the productivity neoliberal capitalist sort of, the output is what matters, as opposed to
Mm,
valuing the process.
yeah. You know, and I that you're making such good points. And again, it's about being okay with saying no. And if it means, and in whatever particular job people are in, if you know, if they don't, if you're not given time to take breaks or to take a day off or to be able to care for yourself, you know, it's like you might need to kind of re-examine. I mean, we are worth so much, not just as people, like what we produce, like Ann just said. It's like that's a piece of the pie. Working, yes, we work. You know, hopefully a lot of us are working in fields that we love and feel passion towards, and just like you know all of those things. But that's only a piece of the pie. There should be
Yeah.
so much more involved in being, you know, and making a full pie. So I just really, yeah, I
Which
feel
is
pretty
where
passionate
this
about that.
this slide is so helpful. There's also some great comments here. So the stigma around taking
Taking
medical
medical
leave,
leave.
that
Oh,
is real. So that's
yep,
something that we can make a change now by the way we talk about it. So
yep,
if we stop talking about self-care and we start talking about this is part of caretaking, then that changes it. There's also this great suggestion: embedding elements of joy and delight into my practice and workplace is more nurturing than I thought. Even having colorful items in my office or my favorite pens, it might seem silly, but
no,
these are the things that are like a little nurturing note to myself. And then there's the research, someone else talked about, research shows that helping professionals who practice self-compassion are more able to provide quality services to others in more sustainable ways. And you can actually check
yep,
out my YouTube on that as well, that it's an
yep.
ethical mandate, which is why we require it.
It's
Um,
huge. That's such a great, I mean, it's huge. Yeah. I feel very strongly, and I think most of us know, but we have a hard time doing it. It's like we know it here, but to implement is something different. But if you don't show and practice self-compassion for, you know, for you and what you're going through or what you might be struggling with, or just, you know, I mean, all of the pressures, the outside pressures, you know, it's like gentle compassion, love, and understanding towards you. It's like you do that, and then it's not hard for me then to show that to others. It's very natural and easy then. But if you are bankrupt and have nothing, just like the person was saying earlier, like a bank account, it's like it, you know, very quickly. And I think we've all been exposed to people like this. You know, the person is there still because it's a job, not because they love it, because clearly they're so angry and short and burned out, and just, and my heart goes out. I'm not saying that to criticize. I really, when I meet someone like that, my heart goes out because I just, you know, compassion for what they're going through.
Well, and how much of our burnout is by design in
Yeah.
order to maintain the status quo,
Yeah.
and that compassion for ourselves, any kind of feelings we might have I think needs to be channeled towards changing the system that creates these expectations on us.
Right. Yeah. 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 Agreed. I honor yourself enough to give yourself what you need. I just, I'm gonna just put that out there, all of this. Like it just, at any given time, I'm like, you know what? I feel guilty. This person's asked me for this. I feel guilty saying no. And then I'm like, guilt's a wasted emotion. I am saying no because it doesn't align with what is best for me right now. And that is most important. At first, when I first started taking care of myself, this all felt very selfish. Oh, I'm way long over that. I'm over that. It's not selfish. It is necessary to maintain your boundaries and put your wellness first. All right, and do we want to go on to the next slide?
I think we might be able to make one more slide, and then I think I'm going to be asking you to come back so that we can continue this conversation with all of our members. Everyone's feedback and the chat is so awesome.
Yeah, I love the stigma around taking a leave. We probably could easily talk about that just on its own.
Yes.
Like I mean, that's
that might be a PD event. Please follow up with me. I'd love to talk with you about that.
yeah,
That's a very
yeah,
good point.
we need to do better there for sure. And it's come up a couple of times
And
in the
how
chat.
can we, the college, help in advocating and looking at that?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think we've talked about some of these points, but I just really wanted to reiterate here that, self-care, it can be so simple. And I know like it says here, saying no, it's very simple. I know it's hard for some of us. I also have spent a life, I'm 46 years old now. Most of my life has been living as a people pleaser and not being able to say no to anyone, but I have released that. I have released that, and it's like you teach people how to treat you. If you start setting boundaries and kindly just, saying, no, that doesn't work for me or whatever it is, people will get in line. Either people will drop off out of your life or they will align to what it is you're asking for. So we teach people how to treat us. So ask for what you need, taking a break, stepping back, staying at home. That's something I certainly have implemented with people that I have worked with over the years. Like, we're going to have, yes, to make it a little easier, a work from home day, or maybe you're taking a mental health day. I think more employers need to do that, because not everyone gets paid mental health days, and it's a huge barrier. Setting the boundaries again, asking for what you need, putting yourself first. We've talked about all this, spending time alone. I really didn't like that when I was young, but now, I just love spending time alone, watching the squirrels in my front yard and watching the birds or going to the ocean. Yeah, forgiving yourself. I love that one too. You know what? The outside pressures that say you need to produce, take on extra work, be everything for everyone, those unrealistic pressures. I mean, it's so, please do not succumb to, oh, you're only a great employee if you're able to do all of these things. No, you are great, period. And you are enough just the way you are, period. Your life is not defined by your roles or your titles. It's not. So just, forgive yourself for being too hard on yourself, because I feel like so many of us have been there. Like, oh, only if I would have put in a couple more hours, or, oh, I didn't do really well at this or that. You know what? Every day that we wake up is an opportunity to, number one, start with gratitude and thanking the Creator. And number two, just doing our best, just doing your best. Anne, are you there?
I am, and I'm aware that we are probably almost out of time. So I don't know if you have any closing thoughts that you want to leave people with, and we will come back to this later. Yeah, and so it may be focusing on your comments about mental health days and how can we as social workers, with the help of the college, advocate for that. And this is really the issue around organizing is something that we will be talking at our October 14th mental health conference, because I think that there's a lot of advocacy that needs to happen around making space for mental health days, not just for social workers, but really for everyone. That's part of prevention, right? We're talking about trying to, talking about trying to create a world where we have the ability to be healthy by focusing on prevention. So all of the stuff that we're talking about, keeping your cup full, is about prevention, right? If I am overworked and underpaid and I'm not sleeping, the next steps in that journey are not going to be fun for anyone. So prevention is really important, and we have to think about how do we advocate for that as part of our mental health advocacy. There's also larger systemic things that we need to look at around racism and around the ways that neoliberalism and capitalism have fueled us, the ways in which gender makes it hard. A lot of the misogyny that is still rampant and queer phobia is part of why so many of us might feel like we're trapped at home. We're working too hard, at school, we're working everywhere, working too hard. These are really important conversations. Tanya, I want you to be drinking in the gratitude in the chat. And I am so grateful to you and to everyone in the chat for having these conversations. And hopefully we can continue this conversation. This isn't a one-off. Maybe we need to make this quarterly, and we will slowly make our way through the slide deck.
Listen,
a little at a time.
I'm happy to come back.
And having all of you adding to this conversation is just so rich and wonderful.
Monthly.
So much more monthly.
Well, what I would
let's see what Tanya can do with her schedule. And it is. So your words speak to me, Tanya, more than you know. Love this conversation. So grateful to you, Tanya, for sharing not just your wisdom and the experiences that are painful to share, but that have really been turning points for you. That I think probably resonate with all of us in ways that might be uncomfortable to be honest about, but your courage to be honest about your truth gives us courage to not only be honest, but also to maybe make some decisions as a result.
Thank
you for inspiring us.
Oh, that's sweet. To be human is to be vulnerable. This is a safe space where we can show some vulnerability and just know that people are going to love and accept you, and
absolutely. And that's really my vision for these lunch and learns and for a lot of our programs so for example, our communities of practice, where you get to just talk with other social workers in small groups, trying to have more conversations like this so that we can draw strength on each other and then maybe be inspired to also advocate and organize.
Love it. Look, the people are still texting, which I love. Oh, great conversation. I'm so thankful for everyone that was here today. And if it's 1 o'clock, I'm gonna just leave with one thing. Breathe easy. Be so kind and gentle towards yourself, and know that the compassion, love, and patience and understanding that you show others, you must first show to yourself. You deserve it. You deserve it.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, and don't forget to keep filling your cup, everyone.
Take care, everyone. Thank you so much.